Okay, we've assembled a basic Snowsnake carving and sanding setup of tools here for you to see. Here's the basic Snowsnake as it comes ready for you to bring to life. It's got a couple heavy ball bearings in the head section to make it weighted forward. It's got some cuts made along its back so that it can be carved and shaped into the Snowsnake style of your liking. Here's the body of the snake with its flat top and then the nice rounded smooth belly of the snake. The process of putting the snake together is really all about personal choice, decoration, learning some basic skills, and being safe while you do the project. So here I'll show you some important items to assemble for your Snowsnake project. Safety glasses, very important for protecting your eyes. This is a inexpensive dust mask to protect from dust particles and sanding dust, sawdust, as we sand the Snowsnake. Also, it's very helpful if you decide to use spray paint to spray paint or shellac, varnish, polyurethane spray your snake when you're done. These pliers will help to remove some of the little wooden rib lemon slices here when you get done removing them initially with a putty knife. So very important. 2 or 3 grades of sandpaper from coarse to fine, a putty knife, generic, straightforward, small one, not a big huge one. And then these are wood rasps. This is a rasp with a nice handle on it. Allows you to shave the Snowsnake to the shape of your liking. This is just a larger one. Allows for longer strokes. But most importantly, if you can't have one of these nearby or can't find one in your home, we can improvise with some of the coarse sandpaper, and we'll show you that later. So these are the key items, and I've shown you the whole display using another critical safety item, and that's my gloves to protect my hands. So make sure to put some gloves on to make sure you don't hurt yourself or scrape yourself or your hands, or to get your hands roughened up by some of the sandpaper, etc. So okay, well, let's get started. I'm going to put these things off to the side, put my safety glasses on. Brand new, untouched. He's in his raw form and he's ready to be brought to life. And then what I have here is some Snowsnakes that are going through the process of being carved, and you'll see here the ribs on the back, which is the first and easiest place to get started. So take a putty knife, and what you're going to do is put it in between these ribs here, and holding the snake with your gloves on, you can gently pry out a piece, and look how that pops right down safely. Use your gloves, keep your safety glasses on, and then as you put the putty knife in between these ribs and give it a pull, it pops right off nice and easy. And you can do that for the length of the snake. Now if you happen to get caught, I'll give you an example where I'm removing one that is ahead of another rib, and now you've got kind of a challenge to push this guy off with a putty knife. One option is to grab the needle nose pliers, and then you can simply grab this rib down at the base and pop it right off. Isn't that great? So there's a couple of methods to bring off the lemon peels or the little cut pieces off the back of your Snowsnake. And I'll show you what it looks like when we get all the way to the point that the ribs are ready to be sanded off. Here you go. These have all been peeled off here. You can see cut away to different degrees with the putty knife and with the pliers. And then what we're going to do is sand that smooth. First step is to get the coarse materials off, and the way I like to do it is with one of these woodworking tools. It's called a rasp. You basically just go back and forth, and you'll see that it gets smooth as I work across the length of the Snowsnake. Now, if you don't own one of these, or even one of these larger versions like this, allows you to go back and forth and clean it right up. You can actually take a piece of scrap wood and some coarse grit sandpaper and just wrap the sandpaper around the wood, hold it tightly, and now you can sand that right down, back and forth. Okay, got it? So there's some options on how to remove the back ribs or the lemon wedges or whatever you want to call them, and then begin to smooth this whole thing down. You can use a rasp, some heavy grit sandpaper, use your putty knife to pop them off, and use a pair of needle nose pliers to twist them off. So pretty simple, straightforward. Be safe, wear your safety glasses, wear your gloves, and that'll allow you to begin shaping your snake. Okay, now you can see that I've used my wood rasp to take off a majority of the material that's on the back of my Snowsnake. And I also use my heavy grit sandpaper to start smoothing them out. Sandpaper also works fine to smooth the ribbed area, and gets your snake to a point where you're almost ready to begin the final sanding process to get them ready to receive some paint. What we're going to do next is we're going to fill these holes here with some wood putty, and that way when the snake gets all completed you won't even notice that there's some weights in the head. So I'll show you that next step next. Okay, I wanted to show everybody some options on filling the weight holes on your Snowsnake. I want to also remind everybody that you don't have to fill these. If you want to leave them open, that's perfectly okay. The snake still looks terrific. It's not a problem at all. But if you do have some wood filler product, these nowadays just come in a tube for a few dollars. Different colors, but it won't matter because you're probably going to paint your snake. But they have different colors. It's simple. You cut the tip off and squeeze it out. Here's a more sophisticated product. It's called plastic wood, and this is a little bit more complicated. You have to mix it up a little bit, but then use a putty knife and dab it right inside of the holes. It works great. But for tonight, I thought I'd just show you guys how one of these simple wood fillers works. I'm going to put on some gloves so I can use my fingers and not worry about it. And I'll use my putty knife. Here's a simple white wood filler material. I'm going to squeeze some out into each hole. There's some in that hole. Here's some in this hole.
Hey.
And then you can put the cap on the material so it doesn't dry out. And then I can smear it a little bit with my putty knife to get it somewhat flat.
Okay.
And then when this dries, we'll sand it, and it will hide those holes right away. So smooth it in to each hole.
Okay, now I got
You
it.
need to add more, add some more.
So what happens when you add more?
Well, by adding more, Jack, it'll make it smoother, but it also adds more that have to be sanded, right?
Okay, and I'll come back and watch, okay?
So here we
I'm
go.
in the middle of doing
It'll be a little messy. This dries hard and smooth and solid, and we will sand it away. So you don't have to be super smooth about it, but if you're better at it than me, that'll be the ticket. So, okay, so I'm going to let that dry in there, and when it gets solid, I'll smooth it down, some sandpaper, and we'll be ready to finish even more of the snake and move on ahead. So, good stuff. So now our wood filler has dried here and here over the weight holes, and we're going to sand that down and make it nice and smooth. We'll take off all the excess. There we go. Now what we're going to do is sand the rest of the Snowsnake to get it ready for paint, primer, and color, and varnish. Maybe we'll even stain one. So I'm going to go over the entire Snowsnake with some fairly coarse sandpaper to smooth all the big rough areas down. Here, call it coarse sanding. Sand the bottom, sand the top. Okay, now I'm going to switch over to a finer grit of sandpaper, and this sanding step is going to really smooth out the Snowsnake. That's looking pretty good. Okay. And there you go. A nicely sanded Snowsnake. I've got some Kills 2 latex primer from the hardware store here that I've had from another project, and it works fine for the Snowsnake wood to give it a primer coat before putting paint on it. Works terrific. So what I've done is put some in a recycled cookie tray, and I've got all my brushes here today. I thought I would just use one of the inexpensive foam brushes as an example. All these brushes will work fine for the project, and basically we're just going to put a nice coat of primer on this Snowsnake. So it doesn't require a thick coat. Don't overdo it, just brush it right on. Okay. So he's got a coat of primer on him to seal the wood really to receive the next layer of paint. And I rested him on this paint tray, but Put them on a sheet of cardboard or cover your table with newspaper and balance them up on something so the paper doesn't stick to it, but whatever it takes. The whole point is get a nice uniform coat. Now if there's any smudges, runs, or fatty edges or anything on this when we're done, when it gets dry, we're just going to give it a light sanding and take those off. So you don't have to be perfect at all with the primer coat. The primer coat of our Snowsnake has dried overnight and it looks very nice. It doesn't even need any sanding. It came out fine. I put a couple of pins into the cardboard here to hold my snake up. I was thinking once I get it all painted, I don't want to set it down and have it roll around, so I put a couple pins in there. Here's those inexpensive little acrylic paints from the craft store. And I think I'm going to do yellow for his body. Put some right in the holder there. And then I'm going to do stripes of a different color. But first I'm going to paint his whole body with one color. A little bit of water to thin the paint out. This is totally up to you. It's no big deal. You see I'm wearing my rubber gloves, because I tend to get it all over my hands and I didn't want to worry about it today. So that's the deal. So here we go. I'm just going to paint him yellow. Very nice. And then we're going to let the yellow dry and then come back and put some decorations. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm going to flip them over. Put them on my little stands here. That. And then the last bit of my yellow paint to finish him up. Got them all colored yellow, ready for some designs after this dries. Now that our base coat color of yellow is dried overnight, we're going to apply some decorative markings on the snake. And I was thinking about what the options were. We have all this variety of colors here, and you can really do anything you choose, but I'm thinking about using this orange, and I'm just going to make some cool lines on my snake. Great. Again, this is just acrylic craft paint from the craft store. I've got the wide brush I used for the yellow, a couple of small thin brushes that'll work fine to put some decorative markings on it. But you know what I could do? Maybe I'll put lines on his back like this. And this is totally up to you. I'm just thinking creatively here.
I know. Just
Alright, always clean your brush if you change colors. In this case I have an extra brush. Okay, I'm going to use some green paint to make some spots. Change to a clean brush, not that it matters too much. Acrylic paints often need to be thinned a little bit because when they're in the container they're very thick. Ooh, I like it. Nice contrast.
It does look nice.
Okay, I've painted some decorations onto the snake. I mean, it looks pretty nice. I'm not going to worry about the bottom because it'll be sliding bottom down most of the time. I think the top looks great. Now for a very enjoyable part of Snowsnake making. This Snowsnake is decorated very nicely, but he really doesn't have any personality yet. So I think I'm gonna give him some personality, and I'm gonna do that by painting a nice face on him to make him look like he's smiling and happy. Here's some bright red, make his eyes stand out.
That's the one.
Let's see how to do this. Put his eyes back on his head so they can be seen from the side. Ooh, I like that. It stands out a lot. Very bright. There we go. Two big bright eyes. And then I'm going to paint his mouth on the side and around the front. Painting on the front of him. It looks pretty good. And once again, this is all up to you. Any colors you want. I think it's the funnest part of making a snow snake is decorating.